is two-time Emmy Award-winning sportscaster that has covered sports since 1988 in the Tampa Bay area. It's Al Keck. Al, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, Larry, and hopefully everyone is healthy in your world as well.
Yes, thank you very much. Let me ask you a question, Al. You've been covering sports in the Tampa Bay area. I moved there in 1986, and I had lived there for 36 years before just recently moving. In the 30-plus years that you have been in Tampa, what's it like for the first time not having any sports to cover?
Well, it's really strange this time of year because there was so much, optimism for the Tampa Bay Lightning, especially after the playoffs, the disaster last year. I feel like so many people thought that the Lightning would get it going again in the playoffs, and then a lot of optimism surrounding the Rays this season, coming into this season, and for good reason. And then, it doesn't even count Tom Brady coming to the Buccaneers. So it is something of a very strange time as far as sports here in the Tampa Bay area is concerned, obviously. But obviously, it's like that all over the world. So, but at least, Tampa Bay was in the, you can still say is still in the forefront of everyone's mind when it comes to the National Football League with the Tom Brady side. So, it is a strange time, but then every part of our existence right now seems to be very strange.
Now, is Tom Brady, is it enough for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get him back deep in the playoffs?
Well, I'm not that concerned about Tom Brady. I'm more concerned about everyone just jumping aboard the bandwagon and saying that defense is totally fixed. Because I've watched that defense, every play over the last few years. And they played well at the end of last season. But you're still counting on a very young secondary to continue to develop. Can they continue to do that? What happens if JPP gets hurt? What happens if Ndamukong Suh gets hurt? And, Devin White is still a very young linebacker. So there's a lot of youth, a lot of question marks. And there just seems to be this, this feeling that this defense is just going to continue to thrive. And there's so many ifs there on that defense to me. And if this defense doesn't play well, then, the Bucs are in the same situation that they have been. Now, they averaged 29 points per game with Jameis Winston and all those turnovers a year ago. Obviously, I don't think Tom's going to provide those turnovers. But, Tom Brady is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time for a reason. He hasn't fallen off that cliff yet like Peyton Manning did when when his abilities just seem to disappear overnight. And I think Tom Brady is an incredible signing for the Bucs in that for the first time since their Super Bowl years, he's now made them relevant. If the Bucs win on Sunday, everyone's going to be talking about it. If the Bucs lose on Sunday, everyone's going to be talking about it. And so it's just, for this franchise, I think for this area, for these football fans, it's a great place to be, and it'll be a fun season, if in fact they do play.
Now, could this possibly be the first time where the city of Tampa, let's say the defense they make some moves, they tighten up that defense, especially in the secondary area, the corners. Is it possible that Tampa Bay, for the first time since I remember, where they could possibly win the trifecta? You got the Rays, you got the Lightning, and you got Tampa, the Bucs. I would say if you had to pick any year, if they do play, this would be the best year of any?
Well, it certainly could be, and again, unfortunately, with this coronavirus canceling so many things, there would have been an incredible situation with the WrestleMania and everything going on here. There were some NCAA tournament games that were canceled that were to be played here. It's just the city of Tampa and the sports commission worked very hard to get in this place to where with the Super Bowl coming here and everything else going on, that they worked hard to get Tampa at the forefront of everyone's mind when it comes to sports. So it's really too bad that it's in many ways tragic that these events will not be coming here. Obviously, I think the Super Bowl. I really believe that the NFL season will be played and that the Super Bowl will be played here. But it's still, it's still sad, especially when you think about what could have been, with the Lightning and how much of a baseball season we'll get. I think the Rays still have all the pieces in place to be, really, really good. But you can have all the pieces in place, and all it takes is a couple of injuries. And it's so hard to say now with people not being in spring training and not being in the best of shape when they do come back, just how good they'll be.
Absolutely. You're talking about the Rays, and I can't let it go without asking the question about this two-city proposal that Stu Steinberg is trying to do with Montreal. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's the most asinine idea I've ever heard. And I say that in that, people have very short memories. And Major League Baseball couldn't get out of Montreal fast enough. And it was so bad in Montreal that Major League Baseball bought the Expos themselves and moved them themselves. And so how is this suddenly an incredible market in need of baseball that just absolutely has to have baseball? They still have the same problems that they had when the Expos left. They don't have a ballpark that can, support a Major League Baseball team or bring people in or get people to want to go in and watch. They have the same stadium. Now, granted, there are plans there, but those plans are no more advanced than the plans of the, ballpark that was going to be built in Ybor City down here. So, now, if Sternberg had said, okay, here's my idea, I'd like to split with Charlotte, or I'd like to split with Vegas, or, something like that, Portland, Oregon, something ridiculous like that. To me, that, at least I can see part of that. But I just don't see this happening. First of all, if you can't get a ballpark built down here for a full season, what makes you think you're going to get a ballpark built down here for a half season? And the same thing in Montreal. It just makes absolutely no sense. And, I'm hoping it's one of those negotiation ploys that if the Rays have a big year and minds finally come together and find a way to finally, make baseball work down here the way that it should. I don't blame Sternberg for being as upset as he's been, because he has certainly put the product on the field, and there has been no urgency from the fan base in this area to really go and support this team. Now, they support this team on television. They support this team with the broadcast. They don't support this team by going to the ballpark. You had to sell out the very first game in Rays history, and then you had to go years before you find another sellout. And it's not like you're playing in baseball's worst division. You constantly have the Yankees and the Red Sox, coming to town. So this area, which has a deep and rich history when it comes to baseball, just has never really, stood up and supported this team the way that they've supported the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Tampa Bay Lightning is now one of the, best supported teams in hockey. And, the Bucks have shown when there is a winner and when there is a reason to go watch this team play and it's relevant, that they will go and support this team. But that's not been the case with the Rays. even though they've had success on the field.
Now, you know that area better than anyone. Does it, in your opinion, or will it, in your opinion, make that much of a difference from the number of fans that attend the game if they take that team and just move it towards Ybor City or the fairgrounds, that area? Will it draw that much more?
Well, I don't know if the fairgrounds would really be a place that would draw people, but I do believe if you were to put it someplace in downtown Tampa, and the Ybor site has been mentioned, that you will get, more of a Tampa business involvement in this. And, the best way I can look at this is, again, what's happened. If baseball fans in Tampa Bay did the same thing with the Rays as what Lightning fans have done with the Lightning, with the Lightning, there is a core of fans that won't let that building not be filled. And, it's not like you have, 100,000 Lightning fans in this area that's constantly taking turns buying seats to go see these games played. It's a much smaller group, but they are so loyal, and they believe in supporting this team and going to these games so much. I think a lot of it has to do with the owner, Jeff Dinnick, with the way that he has just really captured and understands and made it possible for Lightning fans, for hockey fans in this area, or fans in this area, period, to go support his team. And he's incredibly unique. He's, if I were the city fathers in Tampa and St. Pete, I would do everything I could to make this guy involved for baseball, because he's a big believer in the region. He's a big believer in downtown Tampa. And I would make sure he would, get him as involved as possible. So I do think, even though, I've been here since '88, and so, back then the Florida Suncoast Dome was about halfway done when I got, and there was so much rivalry between Tampa and St. Pete at the time. And I just couldn't understand it because, there was so much talk about, well, if I live in Tampa, there's no way I'm going to drive to St. Pete to see a baseball game. And I keep thinking, have you ever gone to see the Red Sox in Fenway? What's it like to go to Dodger Stadium? There's one road in and one road out. Wrigley Field is not an easy place to get to. So, it's not that difficult to go to St. Pete to see, one of the best teams in baseball play. It's not. Now, is it the most incredible, exciting atmosphere in that dome? No, it's not. But I'll tell you what, in the middle of August, when we've had that summer and it's Groundhog Day every day, when you walk outside and it's 95 degrees with incredible humidity and it's about ready to rain any second. You walk into that nice, cool building, and you don't care so much about atmosphere after that. You just want to see a little baseball because you're nice and cool.
Right, I'm talking live to Al Keck, two-time Emmy Award-winning sportscaster here on Frankly Speaking. Al, before I let you go, we have a couple minutes left. Like you said, you've been doing sports in the Tampa area since 1988. If I had to ask you a two-part question, number one, your most memorable moment in sports while you've been a sportscaster, and what would be the one thing yet that you would love to see just to put that exclamation point on a great career?
Oh, man. Well, over my career, the most fun event wasn't in Tampa. I was working in San Diego before I moved out here, and it was covering the America's Cup. And I covered the America's Cup in Perth, Australia. And I was literally the only journalist that went over there to cover it. And we had a crew of about, I think it was 4 of us that went over and covering that because that was, huge news in San Diego at the time, and it became ESPN just started televising it, and with that, it became a huge event around the world. And so to be a part of that and to, enjoy that and really cover it the way that you wanted to was a great thrill. You don't get those opportunities very often. But here, obviously covering the Super Bowl was fun. But I covered dozens of Super Bowls, over the years. And when your home team is in that game, obviously it's fun. But the Lightning's Stanley Cup run was really a thrill because, again, I had a news director that time at Channel 28 that he understood. And I went to him with about 2 months left to go in the season, and I said, as it gets closer, I want to do more stuff with the Lightning because the way it's lining up, this team has a chance to do something. And I said, and let's not forget that the Stanley Cup Finals are on our air. And I said, and in a perfect world, all that stuff could line up for us, and we could have those Stanley Cup Finals, on our air. And if we had been covering them the way I would like to cover them leading up to that, we could really make something out of this. And so it was a perfect storm that all came together, and we did exactly that. And Channel 28 has never had the viewership that they had as, when the Lightning was, winning that Stanley Cup. And so that was a thrill, just getting an opportunity to cover something the way you really want to cover it and to have the support, from management, that kind of stuff, to do it the way you want. That was really a big thrill.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much for joining us today. It's been my pleasure, and please the family, stay safe during these challenging times.
Well, thank you, Larry. Same to you, and let's hope that we can get back to normalcy sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.